She was just 9 years old. A bright, cheerful girl who loved flowers, unicorns, and sharing her life with her friends on TikTok. But beneath the surface of her vibrant, carefree world was a looming nightmare that no one saw coming. Until it was too late. This is the haunting story of Felicia Kononchuk, a young girl from Chita City, Russia, a story of innocence shattered and a tragedy that shook an entire community. Born and raised in the small city of Chita, Felicia lived with her father Fedor, her mother Alina, and her 2 brothers. One of her brothers was 5 years younger, and the other, 5 years older. Felicia's family cherished her deeply, always describing her as a sweet, cheerful girl who was kind-hearted and outgoing. At school, she was a top student, well-loved by teachers and classmates alike. Though Chita is a smaller city, with a population of about 350,000 people, it was Felicia's world. She was lively and full of joy, often painting her face with hearts and flowers, and sharing her love of life with her followers on TikTok. She would spend hours chatting with friends and viewers, spreading happiness to those around her. To Felicia, TikTok was more than just a platform. It was a way to connect with friends all across Russia. She had painted a heart on her cheek during one of her final live streams, a symbol of the pure, untainted joy she had in her life. But just outside the walls of her home, an ominous threat had begun to stir, a threat that she would soon face alone. Vasily Dunnet, a 33-year-old neighbor living next door to Felicia's family, had a reputation that made others uneasy. His life was marred by violence, fueled by his alcoholism and aggressive tendencies. He worked at a local household supply store, but when the day ended, the mask of civility came off. Many in the neighborhood were familiar with his outbursts, often ignited by the smallest of frustrations. And on the morning of February 17, 2021, it all came to a head. That day, Felicia's father, Fedor, had gone out grocery shopping, leaving Felicia home with her 2 brothers and a maintenance team who were working on the living room. Vasily, irritated by the sounds of the maintenance work, began shouting aggressively from his apartment. Fedor had already exchanged words with him earlier that morning, telling him to stay away from his children. Little did anyone know that this would only provoke Vasily further. As the work continued inside Felicia's apartment, the atmosphere quickly changed. Suddenly, a loud, menacing banging echoed through the hallway. Felicia, confused and frightened, heard the terrifying noise coming from the door of their apartment. Repeated, violent knocks sent chills down her spine. Unsure of what to do, Felicia went live on TikTok, hoping her friends could offer some comfort. For the next hour, Vasily banged on their door, shouting obscenities and insults, determined to break in. Felicia's live stream captured everything, the endless banging, her trembling voice, and her little brother's frightened cries. Imagine the fear, a 9-year-old girl, alone with her brothers, listening to the threatening sounds of a man trying to force his way in. Felicia tried her best to stay calm, but with each passing minute, the fear grew. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the banging stopped. The apartment fell into an eerie silence. For a brief moment, Felicia thought it was over. The neighbor had stopped, and the nightmare seemed to have passed. Felicia reached out to one of her friends, telling them what had just happened. Her friend, wanting to help calm her nerves, invited her to come over and go for a walk. Felicia was hesitant but hopeful, thinking the worst was behind her. The terror, however, was far from over. A few minutes later, there was another knock. This time, it was soft, gentle, even. Felicia assumed it was her friend, coming to take her away from the apartment. She went to open the door, unaware that she was about to make the most fatal mistake of her young life. As soon as Felicia opened the door, her heart dropped. Standing before her was not her friend, but Vasily, armed with a large hunting rifle. Panicked, Felicia slammed the door shut, but it was too late. Vasily raised his rifle and fired a shot through the wooden door. The bullet easily pierced through the door and struck Felicia in the head. Felicia collapsed, bleeding, her young life slipping away. Just moments later, her father Fedor arrived home, unaware of the horror that awaited him. When Fedor entered the apartment, he was met with a sight that no parent should ever have to witness. His daughter, lying in a pool of blood, managed to utter her final words, "Dad, I've been killed." Fedor held his dying daughter in his arms, screaming for the maintenance workers to call an ambulance. But by the time help arrived, it was too late. Felicia died in her father's embrace. What should have been an ordinary day for this family ended in unspeakable tragedy. The grief, the heartache, and the loss would haunt them forever. Vasily Dunnet was arrested almost immediately after the shooting. He did not attempt to flee. When the police arrived, he was sitting calmly in his apartment, as though nothing had happened. Initially, Vasily was sentenced to just 10 years in prison for Felicia's murder, sparking outrage among the local community. How could the life of an innocent child be worth so little in the eyes of the law? After much public outcry, his sentence was extended to 17 years in a Siberian penal colony. But for Felicia's family, even this extended sentence feels like an injustice. Fedor continues to appeal, demanding a longer sentence for the man who took his daughter's life. The pain of losing Felicia is something they will carry forever. Her memory remains a bright light in their lives, but the shadow of that terrible day continues to loom large. Felicia Kononchuk, an innocent 9-year-old girl whose life was stolen far too soon. May her soul rest in peace, and may her family one day find the justice and healing they deserve. If you or someone you know has a story of despair or a tale of terror to share, you can send it to solly77m@gmail.com. Subscribe for more true stories of tragedy and terror.